Hello, I'm the real life fake wizard. Animal Farm, a cautionary tale, opened on May 1st, 2026, the most recent entry in a slate of films including Sound of Freedom, David, and King of Kings. Angel Studios has spent the last 3 years building a brand on a single proposition that the entertainment industry has lost its way and treats audiences and filmmakers alike as line items, and that Angel exists to be an alternative. Their business model is presented to the public as audience driven and rooted in a community of supporters who participate in funding the works through a system called Pay It Forward, where they ask customers to buy tickets to their movies and then buy additional tickets so that other people can see their movies for free because their movies are positioned as so morally virtuous that everyone needs to see them, even if they can't afford a ticket themselves. This pitch has carried moral weight, and the audience response was substantial enough to make Angel a $1.6 billion IPO on the New York Stock Exchange, with 2.2 million paying subscribers generating roughly $360 million in annual recurring revenue. 3 years have passed since Sound of Freedom, and the company that built itself as Hollywood's antidote has come to resemble Hollywood itself with slightly different language. The filmmakers who built Angel's two largest properties are gone, one through arbitration, the other through active litigation, and both allege the same pattern of conduct that drove each of them out. The accounting structure of the donor-funded program at the heart of Angel's brand quietly converts unredeemed contributions into corporate revenue under standards designed for nonprofits. The legal disclaimer governing those donations has been rewritten in the past 3 years to explicitly deny that the contributions are donations at all. And if you have a problem with the kind of content that Angel is releasing, don't worry, because Angel's marketing department has begun directly addressing critics of its films in the literary voice of an authoritarian propagandist. Angel Studios has become the gatekeeper it claimed to oppose, and the brand language it continues to use is the only thing keeping the audience from recognizing this truth. Angel Studios is the Hollywood machine it promised its customers it was built to fight. Hey, now hang on there. Before we continue, big announcement. We have a brand new home for all of our live streams, Fake Wizards Live. All our streams are moving to this new channel, effective right now. So if you've been catching us live on this channel, go over there instead. The Real Life Fake Wizard will exclusively be videos from here on out. So that's 3 shows a week, all on Fake Wizards Live. The link is below in the description and in the comments too. Come on over and subscribe so you don't miss us going live. We'll see you there. Angel's signature donor program is called Pay It Forward. This branding carries a specific cultural valence, signifying that the brand is small scale, person to person, voluntary, and charitable. When Angel adopted the language during its scrappy startup phase as a content filtering program, the framing accurately matched the company's posture and scale. However, the company that uses that language today is an entirely different entity. Angel's 2025 annual revenue was $321.6 million, up 233% from the prior year. The Angel Guild subscription service generates an estimated $360 million in annual recurring revenue. The language of Pay It Forward suggests a small, mission-driven outfit asking for community support, that we're all in this together, but that's not the case at all. The entity asking you to pay it forward is a publicly traded media corporation valued at over $1 billion at IPO. It's traded daily by institutional investors and accountable to its shareholders. I'd ask you to imagine Disney's upcoming Moana live action ending with an on-screen card asking the audience to pay it forward so other families could see the film, with a QR code prompting donations of $15 to fund tickets for strangers. The reaction would be immediate ridicule. Disney makes movies and sells tickets and distributes content at scale, and the idea of Disney soliciting charity from theater audiences would strike every viewer as absurd. It should be the same thing for Angel here. Placing this kind of request for charity at the end of a movie is actually some kind of psychological lever. Charitable giving research consistently finds that donations made immediately after emotionally arousing content are more significant in amount and more frequently given than donations solicited in a neutral context. Angel Studios produces content that is emotionally impactful, lowering the audience's guard, and then uses vocabulary to suggest that Angel needs your help in making sure other people are subjected to the same process. But let's talk about the optics of this. You take it back a few years, and the plight of Angel was that they were, very publicly, trying to compete with Hollywood. And to do that, they were going to need direct contribution from their community to fund their efforts in production and acquisition and distribution. The movie-making business is not cheap, and it's not for the faint of heart. And the types of films they were producing and acquiring catered to one very specific type of audience who have a kind of affinity towards charitable contributions. King of Kings is an adaptation of the Gospels. The Shift has a man battling with the devil. David is the story of King David adapted into an animated musical. Much of the Angel Studios library are movies and shows based in Christian themes. And so, that's the audience that they routinely ask money from. It's Christians. And that brings us to a place where I need to introduce why we're investigating this at all. Because if Angel Studios is just a company that makes products for Christians, then that in and of itself should be harmless. Well, that's just not the case anymore. Animal Farm, A Cautionary Tale is a CGI animated adaptation of George Orwell's 1945 novel, repositioned by Angel Studios as family entertainment with slapstick comedy and dated TikTok humor. Orwell's Animal Farm is one of the most explicitly anti-totalitarian books in the English literary canon. The novel was written in 1945 as a direct allegorical critique of communism. The plot concerns a group of farm animals who overthrow their human owners under the banner of collective liberation, and the gradual corruption of that revolution by a class of pig leaders who consolidate power, rewrite history, and ultimately become indistinguishable from the human oppressors they replaced. Angel's adaptation does not at all align with the messaging of the original book. Instead, overcoming most of the challenges of the book in the first 20 minutes of the film, and then pivoting entirely into a story whose messaging is anti-capitalism and anti-cronyism, resolving with a conclusion that implies that communism would have worked for these animals if it wasn't for a couple of bad piggies that were their leaders. This is not the messaging the book ever intended. Well, that opens a conversation about symmetry. Angel Studios chose to purchase and distribute an adaptation of the most famous literary work about an institution that betrayed its founding promises. Angel Studios then used the release of that adaptation to demonstrate in real time and on its own infrastructure the exact pattern the source material was written to warn against. The studio that built itself as Hollywood's alternative produced a film about how alternatives become the thing they replaced, and then released that film with a marketing campaign that addresses dissenting customers as enemies of the state. If you don't like Angel Studios' Animal Farm, then you're just like the manipulative evil pigs. Consider the audience that loved Angel and what it stood for with projects like The Sound of Freedom and The Chosen. Well, this is the same audience now being told by Angel's own marketing copy that their negative opinions are incorrect and that their corrections require payment. Yes, what you're seeing here is real. At the end of the film, when Angel asks you to pay it forward, 2 QR codes appear on screen. One for if you loved the film, the other for if you hated it. The link for hating the film takes you to a landing page that looks as if it was designed by the evil pigs and tells you that your opinion is wrong, but you can give Angel money to make your opinion be considered. An argument could be made that this is being played off as tongue-in-cheek and that they're in on the joke with you. But this is not what Angel was supposed to stand for. Firstly, at the root of what this movie actually was, but also that Angel promised they were going to be better than Hollywood. Insulting and berating your audience for being wrong is the most Hollywood thing they could choose to do. And with a mistake like this being so grotesque and controversial, it makes you have to read into things a little bit more, because perhaps at its roots, maybe Angel Studios wasn't an angel it was pretending to be at all. For 4 years, the most successful original property on Angel Studios' platform was The Chosen, a multi-season series about Jesus Christ created by writer-director Dallas Jenkins. The show was funded by the largest crowdfunding raise in the history of television and watched by an estimated 106 million people worldwide. It was Angel's flagship product. In May of 2024, after months of legal arbitration, The Chosen and its production company terminated their distribution agreement with Angel and then won an arbitration award that required Angel to pay $5 million in restitution. The series moved to its own dedicated app and to streaming partners including Amazon Prime and the CW network. In a public video message released the same month, Jenkins explained what had happened, and this part is pretty concerning. Of every pay-it-forward contribution that fans of The Chosen sent to Angel, believing that they were funding the show, quote, less than half of it actually came to us, somewhere around 40%. That means that Angel retained the remaining 60% as a platform and distribution fee. The donors believed their $15 was funding the next season of the most-watched faith series in television history, but only $6 of that $15 actually reached production, and $9 stayed with Angel. This is the problem with this whole pay-it-forward projection. Where is the money going? We see here that only 40% actually makes it back to producing new things, and the public perception is that you're buying tickets for people to redeem for free on the Angel Studios website if they don't have the money to buy tickets themselves, of which countless people have cited for years now about ghost seats and empty theaters for Angel Studios films, despite Angel's claims that these free tickets are being redeemed and properly used. Well, this happened even to me. Here is an image of my theater for Animal Farm on Thursday evening, and here is a picture of what the theater actually looked like. Here is that same theater the next day, and the next showing. And that's not all. Maybe it's just one theater. No, it's other theaters too, on other days, at other times. So that made me think, is there a possibility of these seats being those pay-it-forward tickets? Like if I go through the Angel Studio system and get a free ticket, will it be one of those seats in the front row that is terribly positioned? Well, as per Angel's own statements on this, when someone requests a pay-it-forward free ticket, what they're actually given is a redemption code to be used on their local theater's website. So if I requested a Regal pay-it-forward ticket, Angel would send me a Regal coupon to use with my own Regal account. That's their description of this process. You pay it forward, and the money is pooled into acquiring these coupon codes. Well, I made multiple accounts to try this out. Each of them went through the process of requesting a ticket and completing verification, and all of these attempts were done on different days at different times. The first was Thursday night, and I was placed at number 1127. The final attempt was done on Sunday, May 3rd, and I was placed at number 1333. None of my attempts to get through actually ended with getting a ticket at all. Now, it would just be speculation to try and discern why, but clearly that's only 206 places on the wait list between 4 days of this movie being out. I don't understand what the deal is with all these theaters and the duplicated seats. They're empty. This movie's not making money. And it looks like even Angel Studios' own people don't want to see Animal Farm even for free. Angel Studios had once touted that Sound of Freedom saw an 84% redemption rate, implying that 84% of the pooled funds for pay-it-forward tickets were redeemed and used. This is the only film for which the company has ever published their statistics. Well, Animal Farm is a far cry from The Sound of Freedom, which was a movie about rescuing children from traffickers, and it was considered to be very serious, but... Oh, that's right! Animal Farm actually references Sound of Freedom in its marketing and in the movie.
For example, I'm about to fart right now. This is the sound of freedom.
Earlier, we pointed out that The Chosen was only getting 40% of the donor funds. When asked where unredeemed and overcommitted donor money goes, Angel's official answer has always been some version of to the work. Jenkins' testimony, under no obligation to speak publicly, under no incentive to lie, and with receipts of a 4-year operating relationship behind him, establishes that even the redeemed money was subject to a split that fans were never told about. The dispute that ended The Chosen's run on the platform was, at its core, about the pay-it-forward model. The Chosen eventually established its own 501c3 nonprofit so that 100% of viewer contributions could go directly to the production. Angel responded to that move by allowing the relationship to deteriorate, the contract broke, and the series departed. 5 months after the Chosen arbitration ruling, Slingshot Pictures, the production company behind Angel's announced animated film David and its prequel series Young David, terminated their distribution agreement with Angel for what the company called multiple alleged incurable contract breaches. Slingshot alleges that Angel violated its 2021 content distribution agreement by making unilateral marketing and distribution decisions without the contractually required mutual approval. The lawsuit specifically alleges Angel placed Young David episodes behind its Angel Guild paywall in violation of an agreement that the content would be available for free. Putting this content behind the paywall was timed to drive support for Angel's SPAC merger vote. The complaint uses the phrase hostile takeover to describe Angel's conduct toward the IP it had been hired to distribute. So that means both The Chosen and David, the two largest faith-based properties on Angel's platform, produced the same kind of legal dispute, brought by different filmmakers operating under different contracts. The Chosen lawsuit produced an arbitration of $5 million against Angel. The Slingshot lawsuit is still active right now, though Angel ultimately reacquired David after nearly a year of litigation and then released it theatrically in December of 25. A release the 2025 annual report now treats as a flagship financial driver. The argument Angel made when it launched was that Hollywood treated filmmakers as line items in someone else's profit calculations. That is the exact allegation now being made about Angel by the filmmakers behind its two highest profile properties. Angel Studios discovered something most media companies never figure out. They discovered that the American Christian audience, which is an audience with deep pockets, a long history of charitable giving, and a cultural disposition towards supporting work that aligns with their values, was prepared to fund a media company at a scale no traditional Hollywood studio has ever attempted to access. That audience funded The Chosen through the largest crowdfunding raise in television history. They put Sound of Freedom into the top 10 domestic releases of 2023, and they're the entire reason Angel Studios is a billion-dollar valued publicly traded company. Christians built Angel Studios. Christians paid for every brick. What the audience was promised in exchange for funding the company was a studio that would actually be different, that would treat its filmmakers as partners and its viewers as adults, whose business practices would reflect the values of the work it was producing. 3 years have passed since Sound of Freedom, and every one of those promises has eroded. The filmmakers behind Angel's biggest properties have walked, and the audience that gave Angel its capital, its credibility, and its cultural permission is the audience now being addressed by Angel's own marketing department as pigs for criticizing their own business practices. This is the behavior of a publicly traded media corporation that has identified a high-value, high-trust audience segment and is extracting as much value from that segment as the disclaimer language and the brand affection will continue to allow. Audiences and fans of Angel Studios need to ask, and have the power to ask, the only question that matters now. Where's the money going? When you give them money, when you pay it forward, where does it go? Does it go to people trying to get tickets to see their movies? They make quite a bit of money on people on monthly payments, and yet I can't get a single free ticket. So maybe the money goes back into productions, right? Like producing things like David and The Chosen? Well, no. Dallas Jenkins blew the whistle on that. 60% of the money was going towards platform and convenience fees. Then maybe the money goes towards acquisitions. Like studios make movies and shows, and maybe Angel takes the money given and buys that content. Oh, yeah. And then they bought Animal Farm's distribution rights, which fundamentally undermines George Orwell's narrative. So that's not very good either. Christians, and anyone who continues funding this company, are falling for a grift. To grift means to sell something disingenuously. They're not lying per se, they just don't believe in the actual cause they're championing for. They want to be seen as bigwigs, big dog players in Hollywood, and to them, it seems like that means they don't care anymore about who gave them this rise to power. Maybe they never cared at all. Funny, I think it was 2 Corinthians, right, that said, Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light, and from that we got the meme, you know? The demon of Babylon disguises himself with the code of righteousness. Well, Angel Studios turning out to be a meme feels somehow very fitting. Until next time, create, innovate, inspire others to do so as well, and for the love of God, cancel Disney+.